Complex questions are being answered in London about what it meant to be a black artist in the U.S. during the civil rights movement. Looking at their vital contributions to an important period in American art and history, a new exhibition is the story of the 60s and 70s we haven't heard before. Belle Lupton went for a sneak preview.
America, 1963. The year JFK was assassinated, the first Beatles track was released in the US, and Martin Luther King Jr. delivered his famous "I Have a Dream" speech. The next 20 years witnessed the proliferation of the civil rights movement. It was a time when race became a major issue in music, sports and literature, a time of Aretha Franklin and Muhammad Ali. It's this period that London's Tate Modern has put on display in a show that focuses on what it meant to be a black artist in the US at a time when black art was being defined and debated across the country.
When you say black art, it needs a definition. Are you talking about my skin color, or are you talking about an aesthetic? The way you're using it now has to do with my skin color. I think what this exhibition is about is trying to get people to look at the art, look at the aesthetics. And in that sense, it's the starting point for a reinvention of our minds. And I say our minds, meaning collectively we have to start looking at people beyond skin color.
William T. Williams was one of the 4 founding members of the Smokehouse Association, a New York collective that turned away from mainstream galleries and towards artist-curated shows in black-owned galleries in Harlem. They showed artwork in their own communities, engaging with street activism through a mural movement that spread to Chicago. When the Black Panther Party's culture minister saw this, he declared, "The ghetto itself is the gallery." For the show's curators, this is a chance to revisit an artistic period that's traditionally been cast in white dye.
When we think about the art of the time in America, we may think of Andy Warhol, but our audiences may not be as familiar with Sam Gilliam or Jack Whitten. One of the reasons is, of course, institutional preferences and also institutional exclusion, and we have to call it what it is, institutional racism. So there were times when certain artists were privileged, certainly white male artists, and there wasn't necessarily an institutional will to exhibit the works or to think that these works had a market and could be sold.
Across the country, artists were developing different ideas about how best to portray the black experience. In Los Angeles, reports of police brutality sparked 6 days of looting and arson. Artists like Noah Purifoy responded to the Watts Rebellion with works composed of debris found on the streets of Watts. Others called attention to a divided city. The 150 works on display here by more than 60 different artists present for the first time the beginning of a movement that still resonates today. Because although we've seen a huge amount of progress from the end of segregation to the inauguration of the first black president in the US, we still hear echoes of the calls for black power in the Black Lives Matter movement of today. Bridging that gap of almost 50 years, a work that's been hidden away since its creation in 1970. Made using an afro comb as a paintbrush, homage to Malcolm is being displayed to the public for the first time. Its creator, Jack Whitten, was handed the National Medal of the Arts 2 years ago by then-President Barack Obama. A moment Malcolm X did not live to see. Belle Lupton, TRT World, London.